let's talk about Spain now. Spain is a little bit different from the rest of Europe that we've been talking about, and that's because Spain, for much of the Middle Ages, was dominated by the Muslims. Actually, there was a constant warfare that was happening between Muslims and Christians in Spain. Uh, in the year, I can't remember the year. I think it was four something. I don't know why I can't remember it, but at any rate, there was a the Spanish Peninsula was invaded by Moors uh, under the rule of the Islamic Empire, and this crossing they crossed over into Spain at a place called Gibraltar, which is now called Gibraltar, and they were able to overrun the Spanish Peninsula really all the way up into France. Okay, and then the French under they weren't actually French at the time; they were Franks, but the Franks under Charles Martel are going to be able to repel the Aztecs, and they are forced across. There's a mountain range here called the Pyrenees, and this mountain range is what separates Spain from the rest of Europe. So Spain was under the influence of the Moors or the Arabs, the Muslims, uh, until throughout the period up until 1492. Okay, so the only part of Spain that wasn't conquered by the Moors was okay. The only part of Spain that wasn't conquered by the Moors was this area here, Asturias. Okay, now I can remember the year. The year was 711, and the reason why we can remember that is because that's where you get your beer and cigarettes, 711, right? So and that's how I remembered it. But anyway, the year 711, the Moors come and they conquer everything except for this territory. And then what happens is that there's this constant warfare for 700 years, where you can see the Moors being pushed back further and further by the Christians. Okay, so this is really a religious war between the Christians and the Muslims, and what that does is it creates a society that is ultra Catholic. They are the most Catholic country uh, because they are united by their religion, and they're also warlike people, a people with a military tradition. Okay, and then in the year 1492, the last of the Moorish kingdoms, Granada, was conquered. Okay, and what ends up happening then is that the Spanish Peninsula will be united under two Christian monarchs called the Catholic kings. The two Christian monarchs are Ferdinand and Isabella. We call them the kings, but it's actually a king and a queen, right? And the kingdoms were united uh, by the monarchy, and so what we have then emerging in 1492 is um, a uh, powerful, unified Christian nation with a uh, uh, militaristic tradition and religious zeal, and they will be, now that the conquest of, or the reconquest, they call it La Reconquista. I think I've written it down here somewhere. Let me just write it here for you. Okay, La Reconquista, which means the reconquest, right? Once that's completed, then they're going to be looking for ways to expand. All right. Questions, comments about this? All right. So now the Spanish um, uh, are able to complete La Reconquista, and because, as I mentioned to you before, the uh, uh, the conflict was a religious conflict. That meant that once they had reunited the peninsula, they wanted to reunite it in terms of its religion as well. And so one of the things that happens in the year 1492 is that the Jews are expelled. They've gotten rid of the Muslims. Now they're going to get rid of the Jews so that they can be purely Catholic in Spain, and that will be true really in the rest of the Spanish Empire as well, once there is one, which there isn't yet. Okay, so and then finally, they're going to be looking for ways to expand.